Officer Derek Mills pushed through the glass door of the Copper Cup Cafe in Linden Falls, North Carolina, intending to buy a drip coffee and make a quick sweep of the morning crowd. He'd been on patrol for almost 8 hours, and the August heat had soaked his uniform right through the Kevlar. Yet the moment his boots hit the walnut-colored floorboards, his attention locked onto one patron in the left-hand corner, a tall black woman in a charcoal pantsuit, earbuds in, typing swiftly on a slim laptop. Nyla Brooks had been on the road since dawn. As a senior field agent with the U.S. Marshals Service, she was due to brief the Charlotte field office the next morning on a fugitive apprehension initiative. All she wanted that afternoon was steady Wi-Fi, an oat milk latte, and 60 quiet minutes to polish a deck of slides. Her jacket hung over the chair. The silver chain of a badge wallet lay hidden beneath the lapel like an afterthought. Derek Mills, however, carried another kind of badge, one anchored at his hip beside a holstered Glock. He scanned the room, nodded at the teenage barista, inhaled the roast bean aroma that masked sweat and summer asphalt, and drifted toward Nyla's table without first ordering. "Ma'am," he began, tone rigid but polite. "Are you waiting for someone?" Nyla slid one earbud out and met his eyes. "No, officer. Just working." Derek's gaze flicked to the empty plate beside her latte. He saw a phone, a notebook, a government-issue pen, too official, too pristine. Something about the scene made his jaw clench. "This cafe is for paying customers. Been told you've been sitting here a while." She gestured toward the half-finished drink. "Still M1. People say you've been making them uncomfortable," he pressed. Nyla arched an eyebrow. "Is that so? Because no one has spoken to me." Behind the espresso machine, teenage Daphne Guzman froze, milk frother hissing. The statement wasn't exactly true. Daphne hadn't received a complaint, only a casual remark from one white-haired regular. "Don't you think she's camped out a bit long?" But the officer had interpreted the aside as a summons. Now, under Mills's stare and Nyla's calm composure, Daphne stared at the floor. "I'll have to ask you to leave," Mills said. "On what grounds?" Nyla's voice was soft but unwavering. She hadn't raised it a decibel. Mills felt eyes on him. An elderly couple at the window, a trio of college kids whispering behind textbooks, a mother spoon-feeding pureed fruit to a strollered toddler. Every gaze translated into pressure, another chance to prove authority. He shifted his weight, fingers brushing the edge of his duty belt, and repeated, "Ma'am, you're disturbing customers." What happened next traveled across social media faster than a Carolina thundercloud. Nyla reached slowly, deliberately, into her blazer, pulled free a plain black wallet, and flipped it open in one practiced move. Gold glinted. Blue lettering announced United States Marshal. Silence collapsed over the copper cup as though someone had sucked oxygen from the room. Officer Mills's pupils dilated. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Behind a countertop fern, Daphne felt her phone vibrate. Her coworker, Reed, who ducked into the stockroom after spotting the tension, was already filming. It captured everything. Nyla's calm, Mills's stammered apology, and the final statement that would ignite online fury. "You didn't ask," Nyla said, voice even. "You assumed." She tucked the wallet away, clicked her laptop screen dark, and resumed typing. Mills backed up, armor suddenly too tight, and hurried outside without his coffee. The door's bell jangled like a punchline. By sundown, the phone footage had leapt from TikTok to Twitter to a news aggregator called Dashwire. Hashtag "You Didn't Ask" trended at number 3. Local NBC 15 interviewed Daphne outside the Copper Cup's chalkboard sign, overlaid the segment with a freeze frame of Mills's startled face, and cut to former Assistant U.S. Attorney Corinne Wallace, who said on air, "What we're seeing isn't unique, but the badge reversal makes it unignorable." Nyla, meanwhile, had checked into the Wyndham downtown under her usual travel alias, turned her phone to Do Not Disturb, and ordered room service ramen. She didn't know anything had gone viral until her younger brother Kofi pinged her work email at 1 a.m. "Sis, why is your face on Insta? Call me." Sleep was already elusive. She paced the hotel carpet, staring at the city lights flickering like embers. She had long understood composure was armor, not grace. Tonight the armor felt spattered with neon commentary. The next morning, Officer Mills sat in Chief Samuel Carter's office at Linden Falls PD, blinds drawn. Carter, a 40-year veteran, slid a stapled packet across the desk. "Administrative leave pending IA review," the chief said. "Badge and gun." "I thought," Mills swallowed. "Chief, I followed up on a suspicious person call." "You followed a hunch," Carter replied, eyes hard. "And that hunch just put this department on every national feed." Outside, cameras waited on courthouse steps. Reporters compared Mills to other officers in other viral clips. Each parallel chipped at his self-image until guilt pulsed behind his temples. The clip kept rolling, accruing commentary. On YouTube, a civil rights professor paused the badge reveal frame and asked viewers to count Nyla's micro-restraints. Shoulders still, blink rate steady, jaw unclenched. On Reddit, an AMA with a retired marshal shot to the front page. Ask me anything about how often we're mistaken for threats. In Kansas City, a middle school teacher built a debate lesson. When does assumption become danger? 3 days later, Nyla briefed the Charlotte office, then drove 6 hours back to Arlington, Virginia. She arrived to find her apartment mailbox jammed with letters, strangers offering solidarity, church bulletins quoting her refrain. She stacked them on the kitchen island, unopened. That night she met her mentor, Deputy Director Lorraine Fairchild, at a quiet Thai bistro near Crystal City. Fairchild sipped iced lemongrass tea and asked, "How are you really?" Nyla shrugged. Backlogged. The casework never pauses. Fairchild pushed a folded printed tweet across the table. It read, "What she did was extraordinary composure. But ask why she had to. We teach rookies tactical patience," Fairchild said. "You displayed strategic patience. People are hungry to understand it." Nyla stared at the tweet. "I didn't do it to teach. But you can't choose how people learn." 5 days post-incident, Linden Falls City Council called an emergency public forum in the high school gymnasium. Folding chairs filled with residents, black, white, Latinx, immigrant Burmese factory workers, retired military dads, surrounded a low riser where Mayor Ella Roosevelt addressed the crowd. "Assumption," she said, "nearly sparked a tragedy and certainly sparked a reckoning." Local activists spoke next. Finally, to collective surprise, Officer Mills asked to speak. Cameras clicked like cicadas as he approached the microphone. His hair was untrimmed, eyes ringed with insomnia. "I saw a threat where there wasn't one," he began, voice catching. "Because somewhere along the way, I mapped threat onto a face instead of a fact." Gasps, murmurs, scattered applause. On Facebook Live, thousands watched him continue. "I believed my instincts were neutral. They weren't. No apology can erase that. But I owe one anyway, to Agent Brooks and to every person who now looks at a uniform and thinks of that video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe." A moment hung like a fragile glass. Then an elderly black veteran in the third row rose, pain trembling. "Son," he said, "you got work to do. But admitting the gut's poisoned, that's step one." Nyla watched the stream alone in her living room. She had no appetite for vindication, yet Mills's tremor of earnestness unsettled her. She wondered how many apologies never left throats, how many lessons fossilized into resentment. She drafted an email to Director Fairchild, subject, "Next steps," then deleted it. She wasn't sure what steps meant. The algorithm had other ideas. A feminist podcast invited her to discuss intersectionality. A morning show pitched a sit-down with Mills for reconciliation. Nyla declined each. Still, she sensed she owned more than an anecdote. She owned an opening. She called Kofi. "Remember how Mom made us read Baldwin out loud at dinner?" she asked. "Every Friday," he laughed. "Why?" "Thinking of reading something else out loud," she said. The following Saturday, the Copper Cup turned off its espresso machine at 4 p.m. and rearranged tables into a semicircle. Daphne taped poster board over the pastel menu chalk art. Community listening session. Owners had offered the shop for a dialogue moderated by State College sociology professor Dr. Lynn Ortega. What none of the 30 attendees expected was Nyla herself entering quietly through the back door, a single spiral notebook in hand. No news vans. She'd alerted no press. She took a seat beside Daphne and let Dr. Ortega frame the hour. Discuss, don't debate. Question, don't condemn. When it was Nyla's turn, she stood. "I want to share something my mother said when I got my badge," she began, voice even. "Your shield may protect your body, but your mind and dignity protect your soul. I was raised knowing both could be stripped if the room decided I was less than the story in their heads." She paused. Here, the room decided wrong. And while I appreciate Officer Mills's apology, I need us to see the system that fed his story, news cycles, neighborhood legends, half-told histories. Because I'll leave town tomorrow, but those stories stay unless you rewrite them. Heads nodded. Dr. Ortega asked for questions. A white high school senior named Will, cheeks blotched red, lifted his hand. I used to think bias training was just, like, checklists. Now I'm scared I won't see my own blind spots. How do I know I'm not Mills in a different uniform?" Nyla met his gaze. "First, you ask. Repeatedly. Second, you let answers sting without rushing to bandage your ego. Third, you practice new habits until they're stronger than old reflexes. Will scribbled furiously. Someone behind him whispered, "That's sermon material." By dusk, the cafe doors reopened to the public. Neighbors hugged, or didn't. Some left in tears, others in silence. But as Nyla crossed the threshold, a petite white woman wearing librarian glasses tapped her arm. "I'm the one who told the barista you'd been there a while," she confessed, voice quavering. "I never used the word suspicious. But maybe I didn't need to. I'm sorry." Nyla's shoulders sagged, a release rather than a slump. "Thank you," she said. Weeks rolled on. Dashwire replaced the story with a wildfire. TikTok trended on a dance challenge. But Linden Falls kept churning. The police department instituted a peer-review stop-and-identify policy. Officers now logged race-neutral articulable facts before initiating ID requests. Mills volunteered for every Friday session, sat front row. He invited Reverend Langston from Ebenezer Baptist to ride along. The Reverend accepted and live-streamed the patrol on Facebook, fielding viewer questions about policing and prayer. Yet the story's deepest twist surfaced far from any screen. A sealed envelope arrived at Nyla's office mail slot. No sender, just her name in looping cursive. Inside, a 19-year-old misdemeanor report from her hometown, Wilmington, Delaware. Disorderly conduct, Brooks, Miriam, her mother. Paperclipped was a handwritten note. "Thought you should know your mother once faced the same assumption. She never told you," but the cop wrote, "resisted instruction. She spent the night in holding. She asked me to keep the file sealed so you'd walk lighter." A friend. Nyla's stomach dropped. Her mother, who had died of a stroke 5 years earlier, had shielded her children even from her own humiliation. Nyla dialed Kofi, voice jagged. "Did you know about Mom's arrest?" Silence, then a sharp inhale. "She made me promise never to tell you." "Why?" "Because she thought if you carried her shame, you'd lose your stride." The revelation detonated dormant grief. For hours, Nyla replayed every lesson at that Friday dinner table. Baldwin, Angela Davis, Frederick Douglass, realizing they were love letters disguised as homework, armor disguised as literature. She didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., she opened a blank document, titled it, "The Cost of Quiet." Words poured. Her mother's secret, Mills's stumble, Will's fear. By dawn, she had 3,200 words, ending with, "Silence can keep us safe. It can also keep us small. My mother's silence spared me, but Officer Mills's silence almost cost me. We choose, every day, which silence we serve." She emailed the essay to The Atlantic. It published a week later, propelling new debate. Comment sections flared. Some hailed her vulnerability. Some called it racial agitprop. Others argued she'd ruined Mills's career. But Nyla had shed her own unease. The story was no longer someone else's viral clip. It was hers, annotated. The final ripple came on a dew-bright Monday outside the Copper Cup. Mills, back on limited duty, found Nyla waiting on the sidewalk. She held 2 coffees. "One's iced," she said. He accepted it warily. "For me." "For us," she corrected. "I hate how I drink mine. Bitter." Figured that's something we do share. They sat on an iron bench beneath the awning. Traffic hum in the distance. Passers-by feigned indifference, but slowed. Mills cleared his throat. "I lost friends over this. Some think I caved." "I lost anonymity," she replied, sipping. "We both lost a comfort zone." He nodded. "Tell me how I keep from repeating your mother's cop." Nyla studied him a moment. "Start by believing the next thing you hear might undercut the story in your head, and letting it." Mills exhaled. "Harder than firearms training." "Then treat it like firearms training. Reps, coaching, humility." Rain threatened. Thunder murmured. They finished coffee and rose without ceremony. A child on a scooter almost collided with Mills. He steadied the kid, and Nyla saw the instinctive kindness that had been buried under layers of fear and misplaced certainty. As Nyla crossed Main Street toward her rental, she looked back. Mills remained under the awning, head tilted to gray clouds, as if testing whether rising thunder was storm or encore. She couldn't predict if his epiphany would survive the next high-stress call, but she knew the mirror had found him, and once a mirror finds you, your reflection never hides the same. That night, the Copper Cup's chalkboard bore new lettering in Daphne's looping print. "Ask, listen, learn. Free refills on patience." Customers snapped photos, posted with captions like, "Linden Falls glow up." The post got only a few thousand likes. Paltry compared to hashtag you didn't ask, but it planted seeds. A cafe in Portland reused the slogan, then one in Toronto. The world didn't tilt overnight. No axis snapped. But somewhere between one barista's courage, one officer's humbling, and one marshal's measured voice, the soil shifted. And in that subtle tectonic slide lay the real twist. Change rarely erupts. It erodes, wave after wave, until a cliffside of certainty collapses quietly into new coastline.